Hey everybody, welcome to that Kilted Guy videos, and guess what we're going to do today? I'm actually really excited about this. We are going to test out this new tool, brand new to the market. No, not this one, this one. And it's made specifically for drywall, and I think it's pretty cool. So we're going to test that out right after this. Hey, thanks for stopping by my channel here at that Kilted Guy videos, where it's my goal to empower you guys to do your own home improvements, to teach you how to save some money and teach you how to do it right. Welcome to my channel, and what we're going to cover today is a pretty cool concept. This is a brand new blade to the market as of March of 2019. This was just released, and we were sent these blades to test out by the manufacturer. So this is the blade here, and I'll put a picture of this up on the screen here. And what's cool about this blade is this is not just another cutting blade. This one was made with drywall in mind. And I'll tell you why it's got some cool advantages to it. And I'll talk about, you know, the little bit that I've used it so far. And plus we're going to do some demo cuts here, and we'll just evaluate it right here on the screen. I'm going to compare that to my old standby, which is this DeWalt. And this is actually a DeWalt blade. I bought a few of these because I really have liked these for cutting out patches like this, partly because of this nice wide straight blade. And it seems to be pretty durable. I've always thought it worked good for cutting these straight pieces, but now that I've used this, I'm going to tell you there is some advantages to this blade that I really like. I think I'll be switching to that quite a bit in the future. I'll try and point out any disadvantages I see to it and give you my honest opinion on this thing. And to get the most benefit from our videos, be sure and check out our description down below. We do put links to some of these tools like this blade. There's also a lot of good information down there about some free guides we give away. We have some good information on our website. We're building that. It's going to get a lot better. But check that out too. There's good information down there. Plus we have an Amazon store where you can pick up any of these tools. So we give you suggestions on the right tools so that you're not wasting your money, and help you in that buying process. So now let's get into this video review. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to talk about some of the features of the blade. They've designed this to have some unique features that I haven't seen anywhere else. And so let's discuss that. So number one of the cool features is this tip right here. This is a piercing tip. So when you go to cut, it allows you to pierce through the drywall quickly and start cutting. But not only that, that is a blade that allows you to do a pull cut. Now I've never seen that before. Most all blades require you to push, mine included. The only way to do this is a push cut. And I'll tell you what the disadvantage to that is here in a bit. So the other feature about this blade is, let's see, the fact that you can pull it cutting this way. So you'd be pulling that, or you can push using this top part of the blade. Now it's rounded. I actually haven't figured out exactly why it's rounded, if there's a specific thought behind that, but it works for a push blade. It's also got a piercing tip up here too, so you could pierce it and push through it. The other feature is, because of this design right here, this pull cut especially, it'll cut curves really nicely. Now I have actually used that, and it does work well. Just a few days ago, I released a video about repairing a small hole, fist-size hole, and I cut it out with this, and it really works well. So we're going to try that out. So when you want to cut a curve, you can cut some pretty tight curves because of that narrow little blade there. So that's a nice feature of that. Now number 4, this one is unique to, I've definitely never seen this, and I think it's pretty cool. It has these little serrated edges here. They're not really sharp. They're not like your normal saw teeth that bite at you. They're just kind of a serrated edge. You can see that on the picture. And what that's for is for shaving. So in other words, if you want to trim down this side, that works to shave, and we're going to try that on one of these cuts too. I've already experimented with it on the job, and it seemed to work well. It's got two sides. You can shave pushing or pulling, either way, left or right. Another thing they designed about this, which is pretty cool, I haven't used it yet, but I could see where it could be handy, is that they designed this blade width to be the same width as an electrical box. So if you can see right there, it is the width of the electrical box. So if you're cutting out a box and you've drawn it out, I just made these up so they're not exact. You can just simply plunge cut, and in one push you've cut out the width of this box. So that's a handy feature. And it's nice that this is designed to be very universal. I'll see if I can't put a list of the tools they say it'll fit. I know I've tried it in my DeWalt and in this Milwaukee. It says on the package it'll fit many different tools, so that's a good feature too. Now, one question you might be asking, especially you drywallers. I know you're watching. So let's answer this question. Why would you want to use this? Why not use your normal drywall tools? Circle cutter, a little handsaw, and so on. Well, I've been doing nothing but repairs for about 15 years. I did 15 years of new construction before that, and I'll give you some reasons why. I'm one of the first that adopted using these way back in about 1995, before most anybody even knew about it. I bought a Fein, the F-E-I-N, oscillating tool, because at the time it was the only one I could even find, and they were pretty expensive back then, and honestly the blades kind of sucked. They fell apart on me and that, so I quit using them. But the principle was that, let's say you have framing like this inside your wall and you're cutting out a patch. We're going to cut one out right across this lumber here. Well, normally if you saw that, you're going to run into that wood, and then you got to go over here and cut and run into it again, and then you got to get your knife out and cut through. I got tired of doing that. Plus, a lot of times what I did was I would want to patch in a piece this big, so I would cut it from stud to stud, and I would just use the existing stud as backing, so I'd cut right down it. Well, that meant a lot of really hard pushing with your knife multiple times to get through that sheet and finally get it cut. Well, with one of these, they'll oscillate right on top of that wood and go right through it. That's why I started using it. Now, one other feature, actually, I kind of skipped on this, is it has this depth gauge on it. So you can see it's marked in like 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, and so on. And it's marked to that line, but it doesn't, it's reading from that line, not here. So it's not exactly what I'd call an exact depth, but I could see some benefit if you're trying to cut here and you're wondering if you're getting deep enough, or you're just wondering how deep you've gone. You could look at that and kind of gauge that. But here's one problem with it. It gets all dirty. You can see right here, once you've cut a few times, typical drywall dust, it just sticks to it. It gets kind of hard to read. So you would have to wipe it and read it. So it's a minor inconvenience, but that is a depth gauge on there. So I haven't used the depth gauge yet. So that's one of the big reasons that I started using these, is going across the wood or down the wood. It would cut so much faster. Another reason is, let's say you're doing a patch or something and you have some concerns about what's inside this wall. There could be pipes, electrical, all kinds of things, and you don't want to damage it. Well, if you're cutting with this saw, it's going to reach all the way to the other wall. So you could nick a wire, or if you use a sawzall, especially a reciprocating saw, you could end up cutting a pipe. You could even do it with one of these. It'd be pretty hard, but a brand new one of these could cut a pipe. So you run the risk of damaging things, and especially these days with the PEX tubing, it's soft enough that saw would cut it. So with one of these, you know, you can control your depth a lot more. It's safer. You're not going to hit anything behind it. I like the speed of these. They cut pretty fast, so that's one advantage. I don't know if I'd say it's faster than that, but overall, when you're having to cross lumber and all that, it's definitely quick. I actually think they make a little less dust because, for one, the thickness of that versus the thickness of this with the offset teeth, it's going to cut more. It's going to cut a wider slot with this, therefore it's going to make more dust. So another advantage. And of course, it's easier to cut a curve with this little thin blade here than it is this. You can do it with this. It's not super hard, but it's a little bit easier with this, and it's pretty fast. All right, I tell you what, let's start by changing out the blade on this tool. Okay, we're going to start with a brand new blade in here, and let's just start doing some cutting and see how it goes. First of all, I'm going to demonstrate the pull cut and push cut capabilities of it. Okay, I decided to add a third line because what we're going to do is we're going to do a pull cut, a push cut, and then we're going to compare that to the DeWalt. And I can tell you that this blade is fairly new, so it's a pretty fair comparison. So first, the pull cut. Okay, you can see they both did pretty good. I like the feel of the pull cut though. I feel like it gives me more control, and as you saw, it doesn't want to walk out so easily. This kind of gets in the way. If I went that way, I could turn it over, but I have found that with a push cut, that's one of the disadvantages, is that depth. It's kind of hard to keep it at the depth you want and go fast. If you go slow, that would work easier. The other disadvantage of a push cut that I found is they tend to wander more. That one did pretty dang good, and I'm actually surprised, because normally what happens is when you start pushing through the sheetrock, these things, they tend to bend a little bit and they want to walk off, so they curve, and then you're backing up and then they curve this way. Pulling, you don't get that. So I think the pull cut's a great idea. Okay, now let's try the DeWalt in a push cut because that's the only option. Okay, see, this one did walk off to the side a little bit. Not bad, but that's what I was talking about. I think this blade might actually be a little more flexible. Not sure. It's not terrible, but that is a disadvantage to a push cut. So there's that one. Now let's cut across the lumber here and see how that does. Now obviously with that, the pull cut's not going to do us any good. We're going to run into that lumber, so we're going to have to switch to the push cut. Okay, that did fine. Now let's compare if we were to do this the old-fashioned way. Which I say old-fashioned, it's still very modern. It's what we would do in new construction, but you don't normally have to patch across something like this. Now see, immediately I hit my 2x, so let's switch to down here. Now, of course, I have these laying flat, which is abnormal, but it still demonstrates the point that now we have to get this out. And three or four cuts, pushing hard, and we got to it. But you can see that's a lot more work. Now let's go ahead and finish with this pull cut here. Now, I'm actually going to trim or cut this one a little bit short on purpose. You'll see why. Okay, see, that piece is ready to come out. We got it clean through. We cut into the lumber a little bit on both of these, even with a knife a little bit, but more so with this. But now, you see how I accidentally didn't make this wide enough. So if we needed a piece to fit in there, it wouldn't fit. So let's try the shaving blade. That'd be these on the side. It's probably gonna be kind of hard for you to see on the camera, but we'll give it a try. That shaved it off nice and clean. I'm gonna try just shaving some off on the side so that, yeah, I think you'll be able to see it a little bit better if I do. So you can see it basically, I think without it being sharp here, it cuts a little bit slower, and that's good for shaving. I think it did a great job there. So I think the first one I'm impressed with. Now let's try circles. Okay, I hear the drywallers out there. You're right. This is what I would use to cut a circle, right? We get our circle cutter out, put it in here, and knock it out. Or if there's already a can behind it, we'd get out the drywall router. Well, let's assume we need to cut a circle for some other reason and we can't use this. Here's an example of why, when you might need to cut a circular shape, but you can't really use that. Let's say you're cutting and there's a pipe coming through right here and you need a shape like that. You can't get your circle cutter on there. I mean, you could, there's a way to put pieces out here and do it, and I've done that, but however you figure out how to get this mark, now you could cut that with this. So let's try circular cutting with this. Okay, you can see I missed just a tiny little bit, but that's a pretty accurate circle. I'd say that's plenty accurate enough for most situations, so I'm impressed with that. Okay, another time that you might need one of these, and I can tell you I've done a fair amount of these. Let's just say, what the heck is this right here? Well, this is a simulated fireplace. Imagine that these are stones of the fireplace going this way, and they're often in these kind of shapes, and you've got to cut that out. First of all, I'm going to show you how you would do that. There's a couple ways you could do that. This is one. You could use a scribe like this, and you just... So let's say that's the shape I needed to cut, and now it's going across this board too, which would be highly unlikely. So I think I'll do that too, curve across the board. Okay, it seemed to go right across that board just fine. I could feel the tip digging in just a little bit, but it was actually cutting nice, so that's a really handy function right there. Okay, I got to thinking about this some more, and I wanted to clarify something here. This actually cut across the lumber really well, and I think the reason is because of right here. You see that little tiny bevel right there? It allowed that cutting blade to ride up on the lumber and across instead of trying to cut into it, so it worked really well. Okay, now one of the few disadvantages I can find so far is that if you'll see in this picture here, I was trying to cut a ceiling out the other day, a big patch on a ceiling, and when I got near the angle, the curvature of this blade wouldn't let me finish off the last of the cut. I couldn't quite see how I couldn't tilt it this way because of this. Now, looking back, I think what I could have done is angled this blade so that my tool was more down here and cut like that. For that last little bit, I didn't want to stop and change my blade over, so I just finished it off with a utility knife. And honestly, so far, I think that's all I can find that I don't like about this. If I could think of something else, I would tell you. Like I said, the depth gauge, I don't really see a whole lot of use for that. So that's pretty much my wrap up on this. But before you go, you see these videos popping up here. If there's anything else that you'd like to click on and check it out. If not, I hope you'll consider saying thank you by supporting us on Patreon. I'll put a link down below in the description. And a thumbs up, comments, all that stuff is appreciated. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks.